Well, we appreciate y'all hanging out with us today. Y'all want to give us some backstory? I know, Tamara, you've got agency world. Um, I believe that's how kind of all this stuff got started. And Matt's just somehow an AI wizard that I feel like every time we chat, I learn something new. So, yeah, tell us about you guys and what all services y'all offer.
Yeah, I'll kick us off and let Tamara speak to the agency. But my name is Matthew Henry, and this is Tamara Pharr. So if you can't tell already in our accents, we're located in North Mississippi is home for us, and we're partners along with Justin. You can't see him; he's behind the desk in Effizoom. So Effizoom is a technology platform. And we're going to talk a little bit about what we do, but we'll also just generally talk, and hopefully everybody can walk away learning something. But Effizoom came out of here at McWright. Tamara reached out to me a little over a year ago, and we were trying to solve a problem here. And one thing led to another. We still do the automations. It's still a root of what we do. But then in the process, in the meantime, we kind of came to a realization that we saw that the automations that live within Agency Zoom or whatever CRM and communication platform that you live in, the reality is that those are static and it doesn't take into account what happens after that goes out. And so we started experimenting and built some things internally, which then in turn we started rolling out to the market. But Tamara can introduce herself and kind of how she fits in. She owns McWright Insurance Group here, so she can kind of introduce herself and then we'll go into it.
Yeah, so I'm Tamara, and I've been in insurance about 10 years, almost 11, I think, and bought my agency from a bank. It was a bank-owned agency for a long time. The agency itself is 100 years old. Matthew and I went to high school together. We come by the office when he was in town or whatever, and just been friends for a long time. Matthew come in that day, him and my husband were working on some agentic stuff separately, and he come to meet with my husband about it, and I was like, actually, I have a problem too. Could you please help me? And so we just kind of took it from there. So I run the agency. Justin helps you run the agency. And Matthew just helps us with technology. And then we decided that if it worked for me and for my agency, that we should take it to market and help other people.
That's cool.
Yeah, and so kind of what came out of that, and to speak to where we see the future of what the channel looks like in independent agencies, realistically, if you think about it in eras, and that's what we'll talk about, previously we lived in chaos in a lot of cases. We just managed fires, we put out and dynamically dealt with that. And so as we built up, and for those, a couple of you on the call, how we're structured and what we do, I spoke to it a second ago. One thing I didn't touch, and it's the reason I pulled this up, the biggest thing that we believe in is that we should educate first. And so that's where the Zoomy chat that some of y'all are on and have signed up for, that was something that we built whenever I first came in and started helping Tamara. I'm not from an insurance background, and so I didn't completely understand the system. So we built a database that helped us to navigate Agency Zoom specifically, but then some other things. And as things began to unfold, we made the decision. I was like, you know what? There's no reason to hide this behind a barrier. So that's where we're rooted at. And then we also leverage that to put together articles and stuff to how to most effectively use Agency Zoom, understanding where the pain points are. From there, I spoke to how we came to be a minute ago, which is building the automations and transitioning into the AI piece from an agentic standpoint. But kind of to go back to what I was saying a second ago, as you think about the way that the agency life looks and how that shakes out, realistically, for a long time, we just reacted. Phone call comes in, somebody writes a sticky note, pass the sticky note around the office and try to deal with it and put out the fire. The honest reality, we still do that at times today, but the challenge there is documentation and ensuring nothing slips through the crack. In the last several years is where systems like Agency Zoom, there's several others that do it, have gotten really good at automation, whether it be something like Go High Level that we've all heard of, Agency Zoom. I think y'all are talking about Easy Links. I know it's got some workflows in there that you can do, automated things, whatever that is. That world worked really well, but the challenge there is it's static. You get a new lead in, you input the lead, and it sends out something, whether it be internal task or out to external communication, and that doesn't take into account the circumstance with the customer. And so what that ultimately transitioned to for us was that what we ended up doing was realizing that the next piece of that was having some dynamic ability there. And what we're going to talk about and kind of go through the honest answer is that this wasn't completely possible 6, 8 months ago. The things that have been released in recent months have enabled a lot of what we're working on and what I would tell you the market will go to in the next couple of years, which is almost, and the best way to relate it is think about plugging human thought process into your business, where static automation works in a manner of if this happens, then I need to accomplish that. Agentic systems are more in line with you tell it the goal. The goal is to accomplish something, and then it runs based on some form of trigger and seeks out to accomplish that goal. And so when you think about that, it translates a couple of different ways. But what I would tell you is, and what we're still, even here at McBride, and Tamara said she worked late last night, she can tell us what she did. What we're kind of finding is within our agency Zoom, we previously had built it out to where there were tasks and there were a lot of different things that happened because it's our belief that the automations that take place should notify the customer, but the biggest thing there is going to be that it drives efficiency within the agency. It ensures that things go from initiated to completed, whether that's a service request, whether that's a lead coming in and ultimately a policy being bound, that those automations should act as an efficiency engine. But what we're starting to see as we're transitioning some of this, it almost leans more towards just communicating because the other things will take place in the background. But you've got to have that foundation that kind of initiates that going. And so as you think about that and what it does, the reality that we try to focus on and root everything that we do in is the understanding that the independent channel and each one of you on the call, you built your agencies based on relationships with people. And so here, the challenge, and when this all came out of the fact that when we were designing those automations initially, as we were trying to line out those emails, the hard part was how do we make sure that it sounds like McRae? Tamara's, we work together every day, and I won't touch an automation that's hers. She's super picky on what it says and how it communicates. And so as we were trying to plug that in, the goal was to ensure that that nobody felt like they just got put on a list, right? And the outcome of that was ultimately what we seek to accomplish, which is we protect the relationships that have allowed for the agencies to become what they are today without losing that, but apply technology to help enhance and empower it. And Tamara, if you want to speak to that, you can, because that's pivotal to you and important, but that's kind of where we live at and how we see that, and we'll get into some of the cool agentic stuff.
Yeah, so like just how it was built, for example, the idea came from, so I was bad to just handle business. I might be, today I had meetings all day. In between the meetings, I would respond to an email for an underwriter, or I would respond to a client, whatever. And I was getting the work done, but it wasn't getting documented in my system. Yes, my emails are attached to Agency Zoom, but like there was no context. So if an employee needed to look back and see what I had done, they had to dig through all these emails, figure it out, the thread, whatever. So I was like, why can't we build something that closes those emails for me, that notates the account, who closes those files? And so last night what I was doing was holding myself accountable, because we have a bot that runs essentially once a week, and it looks at my pipeline and it's like, okay, well, this lead's stalled and this lead's not stalled, or needs this information. Well, what was happening was it was stalled because I hadn't put in the information it needed. And so because I know that bot's going to be running, I hold myself accountable to make sure I get that data in there. So moving them across the pipeline and things like that. So last night when I worked late, it was like cleanup work in preparation for my bot to analyze my system.
Yeah, and that kind of takes us to talking about two different ways that we see it. And I want y'all's feedback on things that you see that are possible. So the way that we look at and what we build for is basically two things. So the two things within an agency that I would say personally create the most leadership burden and time burden is documentation and overall review of the business. And so the system actually initiated on the documentation side, and then what's on screen right now has came more recently. But what it allows you to do is to do an overall view from 10,000 feet to say what's going on within my pipeline or within my service center. And the reality is each one of you on the call, we could all go out and we could pull the information out of whatever systems we're using. We could analyze the data. We could look at every single lead. We could look at all the texts and emails to that lead. We could see exactly what's going on. where we're headed from a technology standpoint is that agentic systems have got the capacity and capability to accomplish that same exact goal in minutes. So what's here is basically a sales director concept. So once a week, and what Tamara was speaking about here at McBride, it goes out and it looks at the pipelines and it says what's going on, where are the leads at, who have we put in as a new lead, but maybe we failed to follow up for whatever reason. It understands who was the last person to communicate. Did we reach out to them and they just never answered? Did they reach out to us and somebody dropped the ball and didn't text or email back or call back? Where does that flow of events look like, and what are the things that we can focus on to ensure that we're moving those leads through the pipeline effectively to sell policies? Same thing you can accomplish on the service side. You can say what service tickets came in, what's the effective flow. And Tyler and I have played. I mean, you can go as far if you've got VAs in your business and you want to analyze the performance of a VA or whatever that looks like, you can point an agentic system at it and you can analyze that, because the difference in automation previous to now and what we're talking about is what, like I said a second ago, ultimately you set a goal. You set a goal and you point it in the right direction of what you're looking to accomplish. And it truly has chain of thought to understand and accomplish that goal. And that's what the other side of it from a data entry standpoint, Tamara can speak to it in a second, but this happened today or yesterday. So within our agency Zoom environment, every hour it goes out and it looks at all of the text and email threads. Once it looks at those text and email threads, it has a fair bit of autonomy within a boundary that we set for it to do various things. It can go out and it can see that it needs to create a new lead because Matthew texted the agency and wanted an auto quote, and I'm not on file anywhere as a lead or a customer. It can see communications that are ongoing about various things within the agency. But the example here, and I'll show you the task next, essentially Halicon Aesthetics is a client that we've got a policy with. Their policy had renewed in December, right?
As new business.
As new business, or it had bound in December as new business. The challenge was we were waiting on the carrier to get documentation back to us. So Tamara had a task in Agency Zoom that was holding her accountable to seek out and get that documentation. Then at some point, our VA got involved in it and was trying to get it. Today, the bot noticed it. It went out, it looked at the communications, it saw the policy documentation come back from the carrier. Once that came back from the carrier, May turned back around and sent it and got it in front of the client. And it automatically said, okay, hold on a minute. There's a task out there for Tamara that she's responsible for. May's already accomplished this. I need to close both of these. It's done. And so the next part of that, and this agency, can y'all see that? Or do I need to pull it
It's
up?
hard to read the fine print. Like we can see that it's an agency Zoom
Let me see.
task.
I think I've still got it pulled up. Hold on just a second.
That link bench will work.
I don't think so. No, it's not going to work.
It's on the iPad, so I don't think my pitch is great.
Bear with me just a second. I'm going to pull up a. Justin, can you run the computer and get to my Chrome? Oh, we're in Chrome. Sorry, you're just going to have to go up to the top and pull it out full screen. I'll do it. I know what. There we go. Here we go.
Take a Windows guy and hand him a Mac.
Yeah.
All right. So here's where it documented all that. The beauty of it is when you've got systems involved, documentation is ultimately wonderful, and it's quick and easy to understand and assess what's going on within the account. So situation policy documents are finally arrived from GenCat 6 weeks after. Tamara forwarded the policy via email on 1/19 with instructions to review and deliver to insured, verify all the information is correct, then check for any errors. So this was a task assigned to me. You can see here that it's marked completed. And one note, it signs all of its work, so you know and understand what's going on.
A cool thing that it noted too. So this was an existing client that had a second location. They did a second location, had a separate LLC. So if you'll notice at the bottom of that task, in my email to my VA, I said, be careful, there's also an LA Bikini Halicon. It's supposed to be AL for Alabama. I guess it thought I typoed that. But to let her know that to be careful that there's two Halicons and to be sure to get it in the right one. So anyway, that's neat that it pulled it out. So that way, if there's a phone call that comes in say unrelated 6 months down the road, and then a different service person employee looks at it, they may see that note and be like, oh, you know what, I should be careful because there could be two policies.
But that's where things are going, y'all. I would tell you that one of the critical aspects of it, and talking about the thought process and how it handles those things, it's going to be a mind shift for the next 12 to 18 months as we think about how AI engages within the agency in the future state, because you almost, as hard as it is, you have to look at it to an extent as it can do human labor in some instances. I won't say that it applies across the board. There's some systems that are not going to be as open to being able to work with. But in time, we will see truly digital assistants that you can plug in and operate. And the beauty is they've got a set of goals and guidelines that they work by. And for the most part, once you get it tuned in, it's gonna spot on do exactly what you've asked it to do every time. It doesn't matter that its wife's mad at it. It doesn't have a kid that was sick last night. It literally just goes out and does what it's tasked with accomplishing. And then outside of that, the relative cost compared to human labor in instances that are the joke is robot work is exponentially lower to accomplish the same goal, and it does it quickly. As we look at how we scale in 26 and in the next couple of years, the reality is that we're going to be able to scale our agencies without having to put as much human labor in at times, because we can allow digital systems to get involved. As we'll kind of just open up and talk, and I want to see what y'all think and see, because at the end of the day, I'll tell you that our goal is incredibly simple. It's to build systems that disappear. I don't ever want to build systems that cause that you've got to go find another dashboard, that your service staff's got to go enter data into another place. One of the biggest frustrations for me when I came into starting to help Tamara and see in the insurance space, everything lived in silos. There was data over here and information over there. We're trying to work with the system over here. The goal that I would challenge you with is, how do you ultimately bring all of those data silos and have a single source of truth? Here is agency Zoom / AMS, whatever that is for you. I would tell you that the expectation in the coming years is that you don't live in 14 systems anymore, and you find a pathway to live within one, because I think that the only way that we differentiate and continue to grow is that we find pathways that we're not the .com vendor, and ensure that we're building those relationships and freeing up the service staff to gain trust, and producers to go out and build the relationships that sell policies. That's where we see things. There's a couple of things, and if we've got plenty of time, I can show you the automation tool that I explained. Tyler, we hadn't talked about this, Tyler and Brandon, Patrick, but I just did it a few minutes before we jumped on the call. Anybody that wants to build a few automations, there's a code here. I'll put it in the chat. We'll send out whatever, however we need to do it. You can use Shop Talk 10 on, there's packages of all, you can build automation. So there's a 10 package in there. It'll be free. There's no charge to that. Go out and check it, test it. The best way I know to put that, if you live in an agency Zoom world, most people have a pipeline that's somewhere 4 to 6 stages. So if you call that 5 stages, you can build 2 different automation sequences within that pipeline. Anywhere from 7 to 45 days is the way that the system works. The biggest root of that, we spoke to it briefly a minute ago, but it's the first step that you're going to have to do is establish what your brand voice is and how you want to communicate through a questionnaire. Once you establish that, then your automations will be built to reflect the way that you look to communicate. If there's phrases you use, if there's terminology, we've been talking all for 30 minutes at this point. I speak differently than somebody in California would. If I'm sending a text message out, it needs to reflect the way that I speak. The flip side of that, the audit or the pipeline overview, anybody that wants to do that, this isn't cost specific to the educate knowledge first. We'll do the first audit for free for anybody that wants to jump in and do one of those. It takes 30 to 45 minutes. The goal is that we analyze the pipeline or service center if we know beforehand. We analyze the pipeline and service center. We're going to talk it through, but after the call, you'll get a comprehensive, it's typically 8 to 10 pages worth of a report that tells you producer performance, pipeline bottlenecks, who are some leads that are living in my pipeline that are just stalled and dead, and either I need to sell them or get them the heck out of there. That both of those things are going to be agency centric. We live in that world environment right now, but I guess just generically, I'm going to stop sharing and let's just kind of take a minute to talk about what do y'all see in the industry? What are things or problems that you see, pain points within the agency every day that can be solved with better systems? Because that will be my challenge as we go into the next 18 to 24 months, that when something causes pain, we say, is there a better way? Because I would tell you that in most cases in the near future, there is a better way to accomplish it.
And at the end, we can talk about the custom GPTs.
Yeah, and we'll touch. So that was one thing. I don't know if anybody had asked about us on the call. We put together a education tool that's within the education path in our system that you can go out and download it. And it's basically a step-by-step of the way that you can build a custom GPT. It's platform agnostic. I don't care if you're in Claude and it's a project, if you're in Gemini and it's a gem, if you're in ChatGPT, it's a custom GPT. The goal that I would tell you, especially if you're not super familiar with AI, is to let the AI aid you and drive you in how you build that and put it together. So I've given you all the prompts that you need. That first one is going to be a planning prompt where essentially you're going to understand what documentation you already have. What you don't have, you're going to need to put together. So the second prompt is going to establish how you communicate. The third one's going to help you put documentation together. The outcome goal is to plug all that up into the project or custom GPT. But it's Tyler saw it. It's step by step. What I would tell you is you just commit a couple hours to it, and even over a few days, and the outcome will be a high quality GPT. We could speak to that forever, but the reality is unless you've used it, you don't understand it. And the challenge would be just to go build a good one. Once you do, you'll learn that all of a sudden now you want a marketing custom GPT and you want to service custom GPT, because they can each be trained on specific things and really help you and your team as you work through the environment. And I'll put,
if y'all can put that link in the chat as well as your contact info. I know Tanya sent something in there earlier to give everybody a little bit of backstory there. I don't know if y'all saw it last week. Diane, she's on the call right now. Diane made a post inside Shop Talk and was talking about, just like a lot of y'all are going to relate to this. So many of your team members constantly just pummel you with questions, asking for help on stuff, asking how do I do this, when it's like, okay, we've already went over this, you should know. And so in the comments section, we started talking about custom GPTs. And so Matt last week and then over this weekend sent over a resource doc that is step-by-step how to build out a custom GPT. And so regardless of which language model you want to use, if you're a ChatGPT person or if you like Claude or whoever, he gave step-by-step instructions with prompts to show you how to go do it. And so now all that's missing are just your agency specific processes. So for example, if somebody is asking you, how do I run a quote, or I've got a client that needs a home quote, what do I do? Well, you can upload all of your carrier info and appetites into this custom GPT, and it can look at who is interested in writing a home with a coastal exposure, and it can look at your carriers that can potentially write that, and it will then spit out a prompt and tell your producer or your CSR where they can go run that quote. And there's tons of different scenarios where this is super valuable. Its only limitations are the data that you give it. So yeah, y'all go check out that document because it is super valuable. I was super surprised at how quickly and how well he made it, like including just put a copy and paste prompt.
I just put the link for that in the chat. So to your last point, it's copy and paste. Go through the document, follow it step by step, and it's copy and paste of what I would tell you that it's not going to once you learn how to do it, you can build better ones. Then that's going to guide you to do, because it's general agency wide thought process. But it's going to build a really good overall agency. Like, how do I get somebody to quit asking me questions about the handbook? Like, give them a place to go ask that. Also put my email in the chat, and then the audit that we talked about, there's a link that you can go sign up for that. That'll kind of initiate that flow if somebody wants to do it. I need to go block it out. Next week will be tough on audits, but otherwise, unless you're going to be in Fort Lauderdale at EdTech, if you're going to be in EdTech, I'll buy the coffee and we'll sit around and do one. But I just I'll put all that in the chat. But love to know what people see. Tyler, I think you can probably speak to the dynamic nature of what agentic systems can do based on how we were playing with the VA thing the other day.
Right.
Like, you can point it in so many directions in things that you want to accomplish within your business.
I don't know how much I can talk on that, but essentially, they sent over a report last week where they pulled one of their team members and were able to show the ROI of that team member, how much time they saved by having the virtual assistant handle the task as opposed to one of them, and then the time value associated with that, and then the revenue of that deal. So they were able to calculate the ROI of that singular employee. And so just having AI be able to do that is massively beneficial. Not to mention, I think y'all's sales manager, I forget what you call it, but your sales manager system agent, that's awesome. And being able to revive old leads, I think that pays for itself quickly for agents.
Yeah, and one key to that, I guess, too. So like the audit that we do, that is a knowledge and information tool. But as far as a customer standpoint, that system was designed not only to go out and look at it, but also to turn around on the completion of the review. If there's leads that are stalled within the system, it turns around and puts a task in for the producer that's assigned to that says, hey, let's figure it out. And how do we recover this? And that's the key to it all. There's analysis, but there's also action on the back end of any of that. And so it's truly, I'll say, there's times when, as I'm building and reviewing the logs and seeing what's taking place, sometimes it shocks me. I mean, just to be completely honest, at the power of some of these more recent models.
That's cool. Tanya just put one in the chat. Can you speak to the renewal process? Specifically, I need a system that can analyze the renewal and put it in a shop or do not stop shop stage based on the percent increase. Tanya, remind me, what's your AMS?
Like, she may need some RAG built in there.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yep. It's now, so my AMS is now certs.
Okay.
And I tried to get them to build that out for me, and it was garbage.
Let me tell you why. Is they're using probably the AI agents built in Go High Level, because it's a white label Go High Level. And honestly, the AI agents with Go High Level just aren't there yet. Like, we're seeing people time after time with the phones. So they really need to go with an AI outside of it and bring it in. And they're probably not doing that.
Well, and I would, I mean, Chris, I know that you would know much better than I would. But the thing that pissed me off is just that they kept me on the phone and kept me going back and forth for months. And they knew that the technology wasn't there yet, instead of just telling me that it wasn't.
The technology's there. They just have to go outside the system. And I don't think they have the expertise to do that.
Okay.
You probably need like an AI consultant to help you with that. Because that's what we had to do, like with HubSpot. HubSpot couldn't do it. So I had our developers build it, bring it into HubSpot. That's how I built the integration with Kara. Kara didn't build it. We built it.
Matt, have y'all done anything there? I know that NowCerts and Agency Zoom have a really good integration. It will pull things over to your renewal pipeline. I wonder if you could just have it add a tag.
Yeah, I mean, there's several ways you could do it. From simple to super complex. Me and Patrick McBride were brainstorming on this exact deal the other day, and he uses NowCerts and Momentum. And I mean, you can get as complex as you want, to be honest, but the reality is what defines remarket, what defines fire the customer, and what defines just let it flow through.
You got to tell
and
the
establishing
AI that so you can set the guardrails.
Do what, Chris?
You got to tell the AI that so that you can set the guardrails.
Yep, and that's That's exactly it. The guardrails are the key, and then what I would say, kind of back to, to amplify Chris's point, the challenge that you're going to face for the next few years with any of the legacy platforms, I don't care if it's Applied, I don't care if it's a Vertafore platform. When you think about those platforms, if you relate it to the agency world, who's a giant agency? Who's the biggest agency that you can possibly think of?
Let's just think about Marsh. Just think about Hub.
Yep. So Gallagher, Gallagher's what I was trying to get off the top of my head. If you think about those conglomerate agencies, for them to do anything or accomplish anything, it takes them a long time to steer the ship in a different direction. We're talking about stuff. What we're talking about right now literally was mid-October when the toolkits and the what powers it from a server standpoint became truly available to use and accomplish those agentic thought process flows. You're talking 18 or 24 months before the big ships are going to get there. They're still trying to use summary engines and make things write emails for you. They're not to a point of
Matthew, one reason I
true
would probably say
agentic.
why, though, and you'll probably agree with this, is they're sending things up to legal. They're sending things like it takes so much time to get things
Yes,
approved. And by the time that happens, the AI's changed.
that's exactly right. I mean, we work pretty close with Agency Zoom, and for something simple, it comes from product management, which is who anybody that's in the Agency Zoom world. That's Sean. Sean is the main product manager for Agency Zoom. If something comes from you guys or us and says, "Hey, this would make the tool better," he gets it. He brainstorms on it. Then he sends it over to development. Development builds it, sends it back to Sean. Sean has to approve it. Then it goes back to development and quality assurance. There's so many processes and flows that any kind of change requires, where somebody like us, if we're on a call and you're like, "Hey, well, I'll give you a prime example." So the automation system that is within Effizoom, I was on a call with Elise and she said, "Hey, can this do Spanish? I've got a large Spanish speaking clientele. Some of the consultants that do this same style stuff charge like $3,000 upcharge to do Spanish communications. Can it do Spanish?" And I was just like, my answer was no, there's not a button there for it, but AI can speak multiple languages. Sure, it can do Spanish. Give me a couple hours. And within a few hours, there was a toggle switch within the automation builder that allows you to hit a toggle. And now all of your emails and text messages go out of the system in Spanish while all of your internal tasks and reminders remain in English for your team. That would take a big provider. Hey, I see Elise popping up. That would take a large shop, probably, I don't know, 6 months probably, if I was throwing darts, to get that top deal approved and flow it through legal and quality and all the different stuff. Brandon, I saw that you had a question about data input. What you got, bud?
So basically, when you have a team of salespeople, right, you want everybody on the same page, so they're all inputting notes. I talked to John Smith, presented in Compass, doing this, doing that, like all basically all the same way. So somebody that's not even working with the account come in, look at it, read it, know what to do, and close it in case somebody's out for a week or a couple of days, or if we fire somebody and we got to take over their thing. So we created a Jot form for it, so we could input it in Jot form. It'll email us the notes, and then we just copy and paste it in there. Do you guys have like a easier way or more specific ways that we could put notes in? Everyone puts in notes the exact same way every single time without having to remember. Oh, go ahead.
Twofold question. Does the Jot form, from a standpoint of just like that's how they note, like that's how they log their note, does that work? If that's pretty effective, all you'd have to do is capture the Jot form in the email thread in Zoom, because you're in Zoom, capture it in an email thread, and then input it in a certain exact format every single time on your behalf behind the scenes.
Yeah. So this is the Jot form that we use. It's very basic, but when it emails it to us, it emails at us in the same format. So I know line one's name, line two is the company and the premium presented, and then we can see what they were currently paying, current home, current auto, and then they have a drop down to show like what coverages they're presenting. And then we have 3 silver bullets, like what are the 3 things that we won on, like they just want a local agent, we did better, we had full replacement on the roof, whatever the 3 things are for customer service team. to know to save it during renewals in case they're trying to switch. Like, well, hey, you did notice that we did this, this, and this last time we set you up a year ago and on there. And then if they
I
didn't,
just
then they
just
have all these notes in
put
here.
Tamara's email in the chat, Brandon. Do
Okay.
me a favor. Go find one of the emails that it sent you and just, you don't have to do it. Try to do it before 3 if you can, but just forward one of the emails that's like personal information if possible to that email that's Tamara's at the actual agency. And then
Okay.
probably 3:15, 3:30, just in there put, hey, I need you to enter this into the system. About 3:15 or 3:30, I'll email you the output because it'll probably enter a new lead, or we'll see. We'll have a little fun because
Okay.
it's an outside circumstance that it's going to be clueless on. But point being, you could do number one, just the emails. It's going to notate a lot of that on your behalf in clean form. Let me go find something and let me get it queued up before.
And when he's working on it, for the love of God, please stop using Agency Zoom as a top of funnel marketing tool.
So what?
Everybody keeps trying to use Agency Zoom as like a go high level, and it's just not built that way.
It's not that. It never will be.
It
The
never
goal,
will
and
be.
I
So
would tell you that their
we have
goal
the
is
real
not for it to
expectations
be.
with Agency Zoom. You're gonna get the most out of it you want because use it. It's a sales and service tool. That's what it is. Like when I tell people, hey, when I raise my hand and I'm ready to get a quote, that's when it needs to go in Agency Zoom.
Joyce, to answer your question, the reason why we use JotForm, we don't automatically zap it in. It just emails us, and we just copy and paste from the email into the customer notes on there. We almost started making custom fields for all that information. Like we have a lot of custom fields for quotes, for like new business quotes, like new team driver. We do a lot of quotes for new kids getting their driver's license with the program we're in, like roof year and all that stuff. Would it be more beneficial to put it in custom fields here, like all the stuff that we want to capture, like how much they're paying, all that stuff, or would it be better to put it in the notes section, Matt?
It's a catch-20, in my opinion.
Okay.
The hard part is if you start living in custom fields, you at that point are pretty married to that. If it's in the notes section and we're forward thinking as far as what can agentic systems do in the future, if it's in the notes section, every time that it pulls that out, it's going to see it and know it. It's going to be engaged in that. I'll show you.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'll show you one. So like this was just a note based on communications that were going on. And you can kind of see here how it super cleanly formats. It takes an understanding throughout the day of what's going on with that account, and it notates what that is. So if there was policy information as far as cost or previous spend, it would all be captured right there.
So we have follow-up tool too, and it downloads the recording and transcript into Agency Zoom. Is there a way to make tasks off of that? Because when we get bombarded with so many calls, and I'm like, why didn't you make a task for like, oh, I had to jump on another call. So we created like a quick Slack channel for them just to write a note in there and then to come back and make a task later on. Is there an easier way to make tasks basically based off the phone call that we take?
Yeah, you could manage it the same way that you handle an email thread. So like on screen now is a task that was, I would argue if I was just guessing, that we sent them the DocuSign to sign their documentation. Well, customer committed via text to sign a document maybe by Monday. So basically it analyzed the text messages and emails. It knew that there was a DocuSign outbound email and created a task that's due on today to follow up and ensure that got signed.
As a bond.
So that's all. So that's a task created from a phone call
email, but you could do
okay.
The summary of the phone call could accomplish the same output.
Oh man.
Yeah, I don't make tasks anymore.
And I think
I never make my own tasks.
kind of to go back to a statement I made earlier.
But you work off tasks, right? You work off tasks.
Yeah. We live here. This is where day-to-day life is in the task list.
Is there a way to sort it by that up arrow versus the down arrow first, instead of having to come in and click the up arrow? Because like the up arrow will show like the earliest things that we need to do. We try to put in times for blocks like 8, 9, 10, do this. Is there a way for it to automatically start with the up arrow, then the down arrow? Do you know what I'm saying right there?
No, I'm going to say no.
That might be exposing the API, but it's not a button.
It's not.
You guys, because it always starts with the later stuff first and not
there's not. Maybe I'll tell you what piece of paper. I'll say something to Sean on that for a setting. That kind of stuff's pretty straightforward. That they like to implement that top thing and do updates. But the key would be, so one thing about that, and anybody that lives in Agency Zoom, the task list, I would argue that if you're going to have any form of agentic system that's helping you create tasks and do those kind of things, that you've got to have a review tool that's plugged into it as well. Because that review tool, its goal is to ensure, number one, that you appropriately closed out things that have been accomplished, and number two, that you are not letting things rot. So once something goes past you in Agency Zoom, it falls into that rotting bucket that's out of your view. And if it's not in my view, I'm not going to get it done. It's just reality. And so what that review agent does, if you noticed a second ago, Tamara didn't have any tasks, but maybe one or two that were past due, because last night at 6 o'clock, it took everything that was due yesterday, moved it to today. It said, hey, you're not forgetting about this, get it done. So those things complement one another.
And do you guys have one of Tyler's VAs check that just to make sure it's running, like a human to check it, or it's pretty much self-sufficient?
Got a VA.
We trust it at this point.
It's self-sufficient. What I would tell you is when you build it out and spool it up, it's going to take a couple of weeks to kind of get it dialed in to do exactly what you want to accomplish. But once you get it dialed in, I mean, we made an update on the task review agent this week to fuss at it a little bit, to be more action oriented, to close stuff out when there was duplication for whatever reason. But otherwise, we don't touch it. I mean, it just runs in the background. And then there's reporting. So I'm gonna show you.
Thanks. So like we've had so many AZ experts, honestly, so many, like 3 or 4, and they always seem to like mess something up with it. But like you guys have it down to a T with all this. Like this is incredible.
Yeah, occasionally it'll, maybe create a duplicate task, or it's really good at detecting spam too. So
it filters out spam out of your inbox. This will probably show. So one thing, I don't ever want you to have another dashboard, but I also want you to have access to any information that's necessary, right? So this is a report from the 2 o'clock run of the bot. So you can see in the last 24 hours, there were 83 total communication threads that were new. 4 of those were identified that it hasn't dealt with them yet, and it avoided any duplication. There were no action gaps. It identified the things with new activity that needed to be accomplished. And let's see here, no duplicate created. Let me see if it did anything at 2 o'clock. So at 4 o'clock, it didn't actually do anything. It ran, it looked at the system, it said, nope, they're on top of everything already. There's nothing I need to accomplish. But those are available every hour or however often. I would tell you that we run this probably more often than necessary. It could be ran less often within the agency to still stay on top of things. But
how much
on our side of things,
how much time do you think this has saved y'all weekly?
Tamara can speak to that.
I mean, I'm usually home by 5:30 nowadays. I used to stay at the office and catch up on stuff like that, but we've been
hour and a half a day if I was throwing darts. Because the other thing is too is you train it on your team, what your team looks like, and it properly routes and handles stuff. So like Tamara's inbox is kind of the root inbox of the agency. If something comes into her inbox that the VA that's really good at doing commercial work can handle, it automatically routes and assigns the task to the VA. It doesn't touch Tamara with it. It understands that the VA's been engaged, the VA's already on it, bang, task goes to VA, and Tamara never has to touch it. She just sees that it's accomplished.
And now I will say these are different bots. So you have one per like what you're trying to accomplish. So you might have one for your pipeline, you'd have one for your inbox, you'd have one for a task manager. Like it's not all one, and you build them based on that task the goal you're trying to accomplish.
And one thing, today's the 21st. We'll see. Supposedly tomorrow, the 22nd, Agency Zoom releases some really cool new API endpoints. I'm in the test environment. I'm already built for it. But currently, the only thing that you can do is see the cert from a backend standpoint. You can see what service tickets exist, but you can't interact with them. effective tomorrow, you can create new service tickets, update existing service tickets, and close existing service tickets. So the same way that bot runs, I'm feeling like it's going to need to be separate. You're going to need a service manager, but that service manager can review your incoming emails and text messages as well as your call logs in your case, Brandon, and it can on your behalf create service tickets within Agency Zoom to be managed through the process based on the logged information. I would tell you that we're probably 2 to 4 weeks out from that being fine tuned. It releases tomorrow, where we'll have live access. I've built for it in the test environment. I'll test for it here right at the agency, but then it'll be pretty quick. It'll be available to be live.
See, I feel like we could just run so much more efficient with all this. I mean, we're still mainly doing everything, and we're still riding a ton, but I feel like we can get a lot better with our processes, systems. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I like have to Slack to them or forward them in an email and then check up like, hey, who did this? No one made a task for this yet. Make it, like that's still all me checking all that, doing that all day. And I have, how many VAs do I have, Tyler? 5?
You have
Yeah,
a
like
lot.
I have a
Lot,
lot of
sounds right.
VAs. We're only about 6.5 million big, and we have probably about 3,000 policies. So I don't think I need as many VAs as I do, but everything is so manually driven that we could probably cut a VA or two out, or I don't know, find other stuff for them to do besides
It's
doing everything that they're doing.
what I would tell you. There's an element of this that's a mental reframe. So like Tamara's gotten really effective where she'll be headed somewhere in the car. She'll get her phone out, pull up Outlook, and text to type something that says, "Hey Zoomy, I need you to create a new lead for this customer. Assign it to employee A. We need to accomplish goal B," and send that email to herself. But no, Zoomy, you're looking for this in the email, but the next hour when it runs, it's right in front of the team member. She never had to go into the system and enter a single thing.
See, this is what I have to do. I drop stuff in Slack of like, hey, here's a quote that's emailed in here and all the stuff in there, and then I got to follow up on it. So that would be super helpful with it. Everything we do is just manually.
Yeah, the delegation is a lot of it. I'll spend a lot of my afternoons after the office closed delegating tasks for the next day out of my email. So my service turnaround was at least 24 hours sometimes. And then so we created one for that. And then the pipeline thing. So when our sales meeting was on a Tuesday, I would spend Monday night looking through my pipeline, what's stalled, whatever. And so that's how they came to be.
Elise, it creates the lead.
That's crazy.
It creates it and sends appropriate tasks to whoever's responsible for dealing with it.
And updates the file. Like if I say this customer, like one I did recently was like they're a general contractor, they don't have a crew. Like I just gave basic information. I noted the information I was lacking. Like I still need to get her email address, whatever. Put that in the email to myself, voice text, and the Zoomy called it, delegated the task, and the team could reach out and get started.
I'll give y'all a funny one to pick on Tamara and Justin sitting here a little bit.
They love picking on me.
I don't remember exactly what the circumstance was, but there was something that was just a freaking bag of burning poop that was going on around the agency last week, and it just kept getting passed around, and it was just a mess. We've all had them. And there were several tasks associated to different team members within the agency. And Justin hollered at me and he said, "Is this your thing? Is this the box? What in the hell is going on here?" I go down there and look. It's intuitive enough. It's scheduled so you can schedule appointments in Agency Zoom. You can actually, that's a to-do appointment, and it's a calendar invite. It scheduled an appointment for Tamara and Justin to figure out what the heck was going on and fix the problem because there was too many back and forth communications.
We were both working on it.
That's
And
funny.
Patrick, man, I'm here for it. Let's just plan to grab a cup of coffee next week and sit down and talk about it.
I might just take them on our cruise with us and we can just work on the cruise. How about that? So I'm going to Anytech, you come on the
It'll
cruise.
work
with me.
though.
Oh, I probably should chill more than I do, if I'm being honest. I have one speed. I have two speeds. I've got go and no. There's really not much in between. Either I'm 100 miles an hour going hard, or you probably won't hear back from me from 2 to 4 business days.
I jumped on Zoom with Matt, about 2 weeks ago, and he within an hour did like an analysis of our I asked to see if he could see who is our our time suck customers, right? Like who we spend on the phone more with. He ran a report on, I think, with like 15 or 20 people, and showed us like who we're losing money on by spending more time on the phone with them than they are producing revenue, right? And we broke it down to what my average per hour payout was, like what, 10 or 11 bucks an hour between the VAs and my CSR. So they
Yeah,
used
and that was it. And we had to, like, that needed a little bit more tuning because we were kind of getting creative there. But
Yeah.
I'm glad you pulled that up though, because that's the audit that we talked about. That's the style of report output that, regardless of whether we're looking at call logs or service center, the report that he's got pulled up is the style that you would see come across for your pipeline health and the different things.
Yeah, so he took my average labor cost plus our average commission, and then pulled like 15 or 20 customers, and these are hit the road jack people about who we're losing money on, and then who's our positive customers. I think down here we had one where we talked to them for 525 minutes, but the total commission was like 1280. Oh no, wait, hold on. This one was 191 in profit, 60 minutes total talk time. We spent $9 in labor costs, made 191 bucks off of them. You know what I'm saying? So it's helping us realize who our trouble customers are, and we're going to start just eliminating them every month to get more profitable on there.
What I would tell you, I know it's getting close on time when people start having to jump off. If anything, number one, we're here to be a resource. I don't care if you use Effizoom or not. If you've got something that you're brainstorming on that you just don't have your head wrapped around, reach out. Let's set aside 15 or 30 minutes and see what we can come to. Number two, I would challenge you to understand the fact that systems, and as you look at Effizoom or EasyLinks, I don't care which one it is, the technology is wonderful, but it doesn't replace how you've gotten to where you're at. You're successful because you're really good at selling policies and building relationships, and there's been an effective process that was managed for years and years. What I would challenge you with is, how do you capture that process and translate it into a system? Because that's what ultimately is going to provide for the most success within your agency, is not trying to reinvent the wheel. You got to where you're at because you're good at what you do. It's how do you cut some of the chaos and bloated, just busy work out of it with intelligent systems. And I think that if we all kind of look at things through that lens, and as we move forward, it'll get better, and we'll have, at the end of the day, Tamara's point a minute ago, she gets out of here at 5 to 5:30 most days now. The goal, and what I would tell you that we measure success by as a business, is our agency owners getting out of the office earlier. If they are, success will come. Because we've all got families and kids, and I want to get home to eat dinner with mine as often as possible.
This is good stuff.
Love that. Yeah, I appreciate y'all being on today. That was super valuable. Yeah, I hope agents take you guys up on some of y'all's free offers, because that's super valuable.
Yeah, if there's anything, anybody's got any questions, reach out, and I'll post in the group in a comment about that.
Okay. Yeah, if you can make a post in the group just with the links to those resources, the custom GPT as well as the offers, I think a lot of people would like that. Brandon and I can.
Yeah, I'll do that this evening. Other than looking for new flights to Fort Lauderdale, this afternoon's pretty open.
Cool. Sweet.
Is anybody else? I know Patrick's gonna be there. At you're gonna be there. Is anybody else planning to go to Indy Tech next week?
I don't think anybody else. I know just Lisa and Patrick.
Sweet. Well, I've already talked to both of them about getting to meet Laura down there, so we're looking forward to it. As I'm new to this industry. I came from a sales leadership and operational background.
Hey, this industry's been chasing him for at least 10 or 15 years. Every insurance agency around here tried to hire him for sales before that.
Holland, I'd say this afternoon, to see where you're at as a baseline, it'll be quicker and easier. Not this, I say that facetiously to a degree. Whenever it's available to you, I would set a baseline and understand where you're going. The key is to build a good foundation. Don't go forever without a solid foundation. What I would say is that you probably don't need some of the more advanced stuff yet. You're not there and you're not ready for it. But to understand what your baseline looks like, any time is better than no time, because you build on what you set today.
Yeah, because I'm still working on my pipeline for the automations and checklists and things like that. So
I
That's
put
why
I put
yeah,
my
so
email.
because like Brandon, I look at his and it's got a broken down call times and stuff. I don't have that in agency Zoom right now for my client because we
Yeah,
were only working out of our AMS. So
so
that's why
you'll
I
have to
asked
put
about having an audit. I don't have anything in agency Zoom really to audit.
what AMS are you running?
AMS 360
Yep.
vertical.
So you just have to get the links hooked and integrated. It'll pull all that over. Any of your activities that you logged in agency Zoom, it's a bi-directional synchronization. What I would say is set your foundation and don't necessarily don't get overzealous. It can say this. The market and people within the industry talk about agency Zoom like it's the most complex thing that's ever existed. It's a CRM. Like, don't overcomplicate it. Capture what's made you successful and build workflows around that. And I would argue that it'll provide efficiency and a valid tool for you to use. But that's how I see it. We can do. I mean, I'll help you. Have you built your livestock automations out yet?
I have the personal line side done, but I'm still working on the commercial lines as well
I'll
as just
send
general
you.
service.
I've got your email. Look for an email from me this afternoon because you're in the free side, so I've got your email. I'll shoot you something over. Leverage those 10 free automations in the builder that we're doing for the group because you can get a lot of your commercial done that way. And I'll show
Okay.
you. I'll send you some stuff. I'll send you a link video about how it lays out.
Yeah, our biggest obstacle is the agency bill or ENS versus direct bill policies. It's a big obstacle for us because
One has
agency bill is so different than direct bill, and it has to be handled completely opposite.
Yeah,
She has
it's a
some
big
unique
problem.
challenges there, but y'all figure that out.
Yeah,
Elise too.
Elise, that's fine. Reach out. Let's just talk next week. Thank you for getting on. But yeah, I'm just going to be honest. Some of the agency build stuff's an absolute pain in the butt. And there's no good way to handle it. What we have found the best pathway for that. Our exports a report that Tamara configured within AMS 360 once a week. She exports that report, and then she's responsible for manually going and starting the flow within the service pipeline for the AB renewals. If there's a better way, somebody please call us because I would tell you that we've looked for it under every rock and I can't find it because there's just not a really good way to trigger that.
After the service API opens up, we may be able to email that report to ourselves.
Yeah, it'll get faster. Yeah, I mean it'll get faster once that opens up, but right now there's no good way. That service API is about to open up a world of possibilities for no better way of putting it. It's going to be fun.
Well, I finally got the renewals to start going into the correct pipelines by doing the setup by carriers, pull them in, and that's how I did that. But now I've got to set up the automations and how it goes through the different stages and everything. I still have to set up that. I managed to get it done on the personal line side, and those are working great. And I wanted to make sure those were working before I set up commercial lines. And I'm going to the commercial is totally opposite from personal lines, regardless if it's direct bill or agency bill. So it's taking up a lot of my time.
So the automations,
An automation can be like, and that can be just the checklist of whatever stage it's in to how you process it and things like that. Commercial has to be handled differently, and then everything else. So
yeah, it's just different. What I would tell you is that it's even at its simplest form, personal lines most of the time we text message, commercial lines need emails. Just at its simplest form, different. And the system's built that way. I think that you'll see that those 10. I'll turn.
Yeah, I'm gonna schedule an audit with you, and then we can.
Yeah, and I'll show you. Just do that, and then I'll show you the other side of it. I would tell you don't build any automations manually until we catch up because. So if you think let me just show you one really quick so you'll understand.
Well, I don't want to monopolize your time. I know other people have questions. I don't
you're fine. I
be
mean,
that person because I know I'm different here.
So this is the architect system we were talking about that builds the automations. So within our system, you've got all your tasks and all the things that exist and live within Agency Zoom. So you're gonna, once you build that, it takes 4 to 6 minutes to build it. You're gonna export it, download it. Once you go into Agency Zoom, you're gonna go to Lifecycle Automations. Let me go into the test, clear out a testing pipeline. So you are gonna, let me, hold on, get this thing zoomed in, crazy. Actions import, and you grab that file you just downloaded, line up the referral source and the business type, confirm, automation done. This one came out funny. Something's wrong there, or it's not loading in. Yeah, I think I'm in a funny one. But either way, that's the process. That's the
Easy
process
peasy.
that it runs through. Let me see.
Okay, so
Here's a good, there's something.
They're too zoomed in.
I think I'm too zoomed in or something. Yeah, here you go. So you can see, I was just too zoomed in. You can see that it imports all your email copy and all that kind of stuff at one pass. Way
Nice.
quicker than hitting add.
okay, yeah, I'm looking forward to scheduling a meeting with you. I just do it through the audit.
Yeah, if you want to do that, I block out an hour for those, and it takes about 30-35 minutes, but that'll give us sufficient time to touch some of that other stuff.
Perfect. Appreciate it. Looking forward to that.
Absolutely. Well, that'll work. Well, if anything, my email's in the chat. I'll make a post in the group too. If anybody's got any questions, let me know.
Yeah, y'all, that was awesome. Thank you so much. We
Yeah,
really
thank y'all.
appreciate y'all coming on.
Looking forward to it. Let's talk again, Tyler. Tyler, Patrick, Brandon. I was gonna got it backwards. Brandon, we'll talk again, and Patrick, I'll see you next week.
Sounds
Look
good.
forward to it. Thank you guys.
Sounds good.
Thank you
Thank
so
y'all.
much.
See ya.
Sounds good. All right, everybody. See y'all next week.
Have a great day.
Thanks,
Bye
y'all.
bye.
I gotta jump downstairs real quick to help Jenny out for my 3:30 call.
Sweet.
But dude, that was some awesome stuff.
Dude, yeah, we got to get in with these guys because they're crushing it.
Yeah.
I think that was really good.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, I think so too.
Let me drop some people out.
Sweet. Well, yeah, I recorded it, so I'll get that uploaded in a